Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Panther Pourri. I'm your host, Jacob Langsam. Here with me, as always, are my co-hosts, TJ Peterson and Alex Lopez. And joining us today, our friend, website reporter for the Florida Panthers, Jameson Olive. Jameson, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing? The setup looks a little different since last time I was here. Jake, you're much more professional setup there with the big mic screen. It's looking good.
I've actually had this mic for a couple of years. I think the last time you were on, I probably just didn't have the pop filter.
You didn't have the pop filter, no. Pop filter's the pop filter is what makes things look professional.
Yeah,
it adds that.
Thank
touch.
Roy Bellamy for actually convincing me to use my pop filter. He kind of shamed me into it when I said I didn't like using it.
Roy's legacy on the show. I love it.
Name drop number one.
Keep track, everyone. There's going to be a test at the end, and whoever gets closest to the right answer gets a prize. I'm kidding. So, Jameson, we wouldn't have you on for no reason, even though we love chatting with you about anything other than Florida Panthers hockey, in addition to Florida Panthers hockey. But this team is on an absolute tear right now. Just their second 4-goal comeback to win 7-6 in overtime of the week. They were the first team in the league to clinch a playoff spot. Still the only team in the Eastern Conference to have clinched a playoff spot. Franchise record 104 points with 12 games left to play. Records are being broken left and right. Jonathan Huberdeau, first Panther to hit 100 points in a season. What's the feeling right now, Jameson? Like in the room, I mean, it's got to be crazy with this team. Like the confidence has to be at an all-time high with going into the last 3-4 weeks of the season.
Oh yeah, confidence is at an all-time high, but it's kind of been peaking since like midway through the season. This team has really just had that self-belief. You guys have seen it just in the games and how they play and how they have these comebacks. This team is just so cocky's not the right word, because like they're confident, but they also follow through on it. Like they execute their confidence. So they just have so much belief in each other and everyone in that room. And I think you have seen guys like Huberdeau and Barkov, who obviously took over the game against the Maple Leafs at the end there and just dominated and just did the things that they do. And we've seen them do for so many years. I think the fact that they go into every game knowing they don't have to flip that switch and they don't have to be the best players every single night has just made them into the best players pretty much every single night, because they don't have that mental weight maybe they've had in the past. The fact that Mason Marchment can come in and give them a hat trick just randomly. Sam Reinhart's good for 2-3 points a night. Like there's just so many different heroes on this show, this team, that I think it just really has made everyone that much better. And you got to give, kudos to Andrew Burnett. Just what a job he's done. Obviously all the kudos in the world to Bill Zito for building this team and pushing all the right buttons. But just in terms of the vibe, obviously the vibe is such a big thing. I was talking to Joe Thornton about the vibe the other day, and he just really said, it really is just every guy in that room. There's not really a clique. There's not really, this guy, it means this to the room, or this guy means this. This guy is in charge of this. Every guy is just one perfect kind of fluid piece of that locker room. And I think I've never seen it before. I've been around this team about a decade. I've seen some good rooms. I've seen some good cliques within rooms, but I've never seen just like a top to bottom room the way this is built. Even the guys that aren't playing right now, like Lucas Carlson, Pateri Lindbaum, those guys are having a blast. I see those guys walking around the event level. They're fired up. They're this team's biggest cheerleaders when they're not in these games. No, even going back to Frank Petrano when he was here, it was obviously tough for him to be scratched, but he never minded when he was scratched, because guys just want to be a part of this thing, even if they're not in the lineup. Everyone just wants to be around this vibe in this team. And obviously it's working right now, but it's gonna be interesting to see, as time goes on, just what kind of draw this becomes for free agents. We've already seen it with guys like Claude Giroux wanted to come here and Joe Thornton wanted to come here, but word's getting around the NHL that, it's not just the weather anymore. It's not just, the taxes. This is just a really fun place to be and a fun place to spend your career.
So I'm curious if you had to guess, because I don't know how much guys will admit it to you, how much of it is down to, we're playing our best hockey right now. The playoffs are, an arm's reach away. And how much of it is this a little bit of standings watching and noticing that the Lightning haven't been playing their best hockey. The Hurricanes haven't been playing their best hockey. The Leafs are, they were a little bit behind, so there's still a nice cushion there. The Bruins were so far behind that even though they've been hot recently, they were really not in the Panthers ballpark. Do you think that that's adding to the sense of delight that like they're pretty well clear for the top of the Eastern Conference right now? Or do you think that they generally aren't looking at the standings? They're just like, we want to go into the playoffs playing our best hockey?
I've been trying to keep tabs on this over the years, because I'm always baffled how little standings watching players do and how little kind of just like around the league, looking over their shoulder. They do. And I got to tell you, guys really don't do that. I mean, maybe there's a guy or two here and there, but the vast majority really probably couldn't tell you what the Panthers record is right now, how many points they have, what their cushion is over the Leafs. They just know they've won a lot of games. They know they have a lot of points, and they know that they're leading the Leafs by a good amount. Yes, they want the banner at this point. I think a lot of guys are trying to flip that switch, not just for the banner, but I mean, Huberto's talked about it a lot. They want home ice advantage. They know how important FLA Live Arena is to this team. We saw it against the Leafs. Obviously, the fans kind of willing the team to victory there, but guys really don't research and spend as much time, definitely not nearly as much time as we spend, reading articles and looking at the standings and looking at stats. I don't think a single guy on the team goes to naturalstattrick.com. The guys just, they show up to work, they play their game, they get the results, and they know if they get the results, everything else is probably going to work out. The moment they leave the rink, they're usually, they flip off the hockey switch, except maybe Barkov. That switch probably stays on for Barkov, but most guys just go do something else. And when they show back up at the rink, they know they're in a good spot. It's really fascinating. I've been around other teams in sports. I remember when I covered the Dolphins, players were so hyper aware of, what was going on in the league, what was going on with their own personal stuff. Whereas in hockey, guys really tune everything out except for hockey. And then, when they're out of the rink, they're out of the rink.
So the main thing that I'm taking away from what you're saying right now is Sasha Barkov's web browser homepage is naturalstattrick.com.
It might be. It's definitely YouTubing. It's YouTubing hockey tricks. It's YouTubing other hockey players. And it's probably 80% tennis as well. A lot of tennis.
And maybe the occasional like Call of Duty Twitch stream or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Last I checked, he's actually, when it comes to gaming, he's been doing some like F1 sim, like he's been doing some F1 racing gaming, but like doesn't really play NHL as far as I know. Doesn't really play Call of Duty right now. I think it's mostly just hockey, tennis, and maybe the occasional hopping in the F1 chair and playing some F1. Barkey's he's narrowed in right now, mainly on hockey.
You know what? That's a good place for him to be.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying every guy's narrowed in, but like Barkey's narrowed in more than anyone in the world. Like it's breakfast, lunch, and dinner for Sasha.
I was going to say Barkey's for sure got one of those full F1 setups where the chair moves and 3 screens all around him. So it feels like you're actually in the driver's seat. I
got to see a photo of the actual setup. I just know he's into it, and I don't know how into it he is, because I feel like sometimes when Barkey openly likes so few little things in public that when we find out something he does like, I think we build it up on our heads like it's this great passion. So I really don't know how deep it is, but I just know that it's there, and I would love to actually see a photo someday, because you think he's got the cash. If he actually likes it, he'd get the whole nice setup and the multi-monitors, all that stuff. But we'll see. I know he's buddies with one of the F1 drivers. I think Valtteri Bottas, Finnish countryman. So maybe they have a hookup there. I don't know. We'll see. But it is funny. Like, throwing it to you guys. What do you know Barkey loves? For me, it literally is like tennis and hockey. And like, that's the two real
tennis,
things I'm really
hockey,
confident.
His mom and Anton Lundell. Like
I'm confident in those things. Outside of that, I know he has some hobbies and things, but like those are the two things I'm actually confident in. I can tell you he loves. It's just, and that's what I said. When we get a breadcrumb of something he's interested in, we just freak out and we're like, Barkey likes this. This is huge.
And wasn't there a whole thing there was an Inside the Panthers off-season edition about Barkov, and like, wasn't there a whole thing with chicken wings, or am I?
Yeah, so he loves chicken wings, and that's the funny thing. And I remember when we went to Finland, they did this whole big chicken wing segment with like him and Patrick Laine, and Barkey's kind of sitting there. He's like, yeah, I like chicken wings, but this is insane. This isn't my identity, guys. Like, what are you doing? But yeah, we bug Barkey. I think that's probably Barkey stopped telling us things he likes, because the moment we do, we bug him about it. It's kind of like the NHL and Gritty. The moment the NHL found Gritty was popular, they just shove it down your throat. We kind of do that with Barkey. We just get too excited.
He's such a fascinating person.
He is,
just because he's so quietly.
I did a story with Barkey for Venice Magazine a couple months ago, and it was just like fascinating. Like, the most fascinating stuff about Barkey isn't the hockey stuff. Like, the hockey stuff is so surface level. You see it, okay, that guy's a superstar. I get it. I see the work he puts in. I get that. It's like the little, just like who he is things, because he really is just such a unique star in the sense that he definitely doesn't chase the spotlight, like definitely doesn't care about the fame and the riches and all that. He just wants to be a good hockey player, and he wants to like enjoy the things he enjoys. Like, he wants to go to the Miami Open. He wants Barkey is more excited to meet like the world's 50th ranked tennis player than he would be, I think, to meet like Wayne Gretzky. Like, these interesting, like little interesting things about him that I am just forever going to be trying to piece together. And I remember when I was talking to him on the phone for the interview, he was heading down to Miami, and he was just, gutting through traffic. And it was just interesting to hear him like comment on traffic as he's driving through traffic. And he was I remember like there was a pause for a second when we were talking, and I was like, did I lose him? And then you just hear just like slamming on his horn, and there's another pause, and then he just goes, "Sorry, this guy's asleep." And I'm just like, Barkey's already got like the South Florida road rage about him too. He's got the sass, and that's actually what like the article ended up kind of turning into, because then we kind of got into like when he first came here at 18, Olli Jokinen like gave him a car to use, and he's like, I didn't drive anywhere, like I was terrified. And now here he is years later, like cruising down 95, like telling people off, and that to me just sums up Barkey. The fact that you can't sum up Barkey kind of sums up Barkey. Like it's an onion we're going to be peeling back for, I feel like, our entire lives.
Yeah, and it's been so fun to watch him on the ice too. I mean, I one of the big things when the Panthers traded for Claude Giroux was, okay, where do you put him? Like there's a displacement here. Naturally, when a team trades for a star like that is like he has to play top 6 minutes, there's almost always this thing that's like he has to displace someone. If a team is really buying at the deadline, then you can't add like this superstar without displacing someone. But Barkov's right wing has been a revolving door all season. The only forward that he has more time with than without is Carter Verhaeghe. So adding Giroux has been such a great revelation for him, though he's been playing more with Duclair lately, I think. And then that second line of Huberdeau, Bennett, Giroux has been terrifying.
You think of Barkey's career. I mean, when I think of Barkey like line mates, and I think of Barkey lines, you think of Bergenheim and boys, the Killer B days, and then you think of the Hubie Yager days, and I guess now you kind of think of the Verhaeghe Duke days. But like other than that, it's kind of been, like you said, revolving doors on most wings except for Carter Verhaeghe, who's just been attached to his left side ever since he got here. So the fact that Barkey's also doing all this without real consistency among line mates is even just more incredible.
You're forgetting the Seth Griffith days.
How many games was that? Like 24 games?
That's right. Seth
Griffith. I don't think it was even that many. I think it was probably 15.
He did pretty. That's 15 games though with Barkey. It's pretty big. That's a pretty big test right there.
I can pull this up. That. The Griffith was the 16-17 season, right?
Yeah, that was the year after March or so.
No, it was. I think it was the same year.
Before.
Yeah, before same year. I don't know. That feels like a lifetime ago now.
Right.
It does feel like a lifetime ago.
Remember when those were our biggest like talking points? Like, will Seth Griffith work on this top line with Barkey? And now here we are, like, I don't know. Should Giroux be on the second line, the third line? I don't know. Like,
so Barkov's most common forward line mates in the 16-17 season.
I was gonna say, no, it gets so much worse. I mean, remember when Richard Sednick was the free agent signing of the offseason? And we were holding press conferences for Brett McLean?
And that's why, I mean, you guys know me as the eternal voice of optimism. But like I said, my optimism, I always describe my optimism as I'll never tell you something bad is good, but I'll always tell you something bad could be better. Yeah. Like I'll always give you the road to, hey, this could work out. And I do find it funny. Like I've seen I feel like Twitter's been more heated after losses this season than in like any other season. And this, of course, has been the best season of all time. Like the standard we hold things to now is incredible. And it's a good thing. It's part of being a good team. It's just so funny seeing the change over the years.
Can I jump in and do another throwback? Not as far back as Alex was saying, but do you remember when every single loss, there was a referendum on Andrew Brunette?
Yeah,
because that was like a solid month that people were like, the team is 16-5-0 or whatever it was. Like, I don't know about this coach, man. Those days are long gone.
I like, you knew it was going to be awful after Q was removed. You knew that whatever that
by
first
himself
was just going to be a disaster.
Yeah, I mean that's obvious, and that it's a tough spot to be in. I think that's once again why you got to give so much love for Bruno. Is the fact that he's just done such a good job. Not only like obviously keeping the team on the right track, but I think also elevating the team. I think he's putting guys in positions to succeed. I think he's obviously a player's coach. Guys love playing for him. And I think, right up there with Jack Adams. I think you got to put him up there. Like, because I've heard some people say he wasn't coached the full season. Well, what was it? 8 games into the season, 7? Like he's been the coach 10. The full season. Yeah, it's a full season. Like he didn't just pop in mid-season.
Didn't Mike Sullivan win the Jack Adams when he was installed in like December after when the Penguins won the Cup? I could be wrong. Maybe Mike Sullivan might
well into the season.
Adams, but
But I'm on the
Either
awards
way,
train for
Bruno's
every
gonna
Panther.
Just as some conclusion here, Seth Griffith was Barkov's fourth most common line mate in the 16-17 season.
Wow.
Yager, then Huberdeau, then Marchessault, then Griffith.
Fun fact: the most recent Penguins coach to win the Jack Adams was Dan Bilesma.
Oh, Disco Dan won it. Wow.
Oh.
Mike Sullivan never won a Jack Adams.
No, current assistant coach in Charlotte, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, that's another episode. Charlotte's headed to the playoffs here at some point too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, that
Ooh,
was an
You should
episode.
get TJ
'cause I
Shalot
did.
on for that.
I did.
Oh yeah, you got him on for that. Yeah.
Yeah. I love TJ. I mean, for obvious reasons.
Just to talk about Cole Schwinn. We know.
Oh yeah.
Who?
And also TJ stuff.
Love
Speaking
that
of the
brand.
job that Andrew Brunette's done this year, I think that it really speaks volumes that the Panthers have now set an NHL record with, I believe, their fifth 3+ goal comeback in a single season, which they've done with 12 games remaining.
Mhm.
So what does it mean to this team that they are just never out of a game?
Like I said, it's the self-confidence, it's the belief. And I think now it's just grown beyond that. It's grown beyond the room. Like now the fans know it. And when everyone has the belief, like I said, when the Panthers were down 5-1 and Sam Reinhart made it 5-2, like the building erupted. It wasn't like, oh, a little like soft golf clap, like, oh, neat, we got one. Like the building immediately was like, all right, here we come. And then the players feel like here we come. And then of course, when Gudas makes it 5-3, it's a whole new ball game. And just, that's kind of when you felt, the momentum swing. And
Gudas goal, man.
that Gudas goal was wonderful. But that's the thing. The comeback cats, it's a real thing. It's not, they did it once. It really is part of the team's identity. Luckily they don't have to do it too often, dig themselves out of those holes. But I think it just says a lot about the team, a lot about the environment and the culture. When it comes to Bruno, I think one thing I'll say is in the past, or not even just in the past, around the league, sometimes when things aren't going right, coaches really do kind of do like the hard bench of a guy, or like, I'm going to make this guy, I'm going to make my mark by benching this guy because he had a bad first period. Bruno really does. He does, reduce minutes. He does shorten the bench, of course, like any coach does, but he never really has that make example guy. He just really moves things around to just see what works. And he really does let guys fight through things when they are, slumping or having a bad couple of shifts. And I think once again, players coach, it ties right back into that. And I think that's why guys know if, hey, I had a terrible first period, but Bruno's going to let me fight through it and try to have a great second period. And so far this season, most guys have done that. They have responded with, that confidence behind them.
Our first season was when Tom Rowe was the interim coach. So hearing that, breath of fresh air.
Well, probably it also helps that things are going so well. You can give guys longer leashes too, and things are wonderful like they are now. But I think Bruno's pushed all the right buttons, obviously, and the record's there, and the points record, and all the career milestones. And yep, I like I said, I'm tired from just writing out how many franchise records guys and the Panthers are having this season.
And there still might be more to come, James.
There's still more to come. I know.
We got Lundell chasing 20 goals. We got let's see, Uyghur's on pace for a career high in points, right?
He already has it. One more goal. He's got one more goal for career high goals for Weeks. And then Lundy, I think he's the fourth Panthers rookie to have 40 points. Sadly, by missing those games, I don't know if he's going to hit 50, which I think is the record right now. But he could. I mean, he could. 10 points in 12 games for Lundy is not crazy.
That also kills him
more
in the Calder
sadly, I
race.
think by missing those games, he also was removed from the Calder conversation.
Yes. But I will say, even though he's not going to be in the Calder conference because he missed those games, I think Lundy is regardless of games played, is the second most impactful rookie this year, just in terms of impact. Obviously, it's still going to be Sider number one, just because he's a top pairing defenseman on a team and eating up minutes and playing all situations. But Lundy, even as a third line center, PK guy, second most impactful, second most meaningful to his team's success.
But you also, when you say, he's a third line center, but what does that mean for the Panthers? Our third line is Sam Reinhart and
there's probably about 65, 70 goals on that third line. Yeah.
Third line, right? Sam Reinhart's a point a game player on that third line.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the third line that had the most 5-on-5 time on ice on Tuesday, and they had a 80% expected goals or something like that.
Speaking of the third line, my most favorite game to play is after every single game, just go to Natural Stat Trick and look at Mason Marchman's numbers, and you'll be like, oh my God. It's always something ridiculous. 8 out of 10 times, he's in the top 2 or 3 in terms of Corsi for, and it's just always a ridiculous number. And you're because you watch Mason Marchman's game, and it's just crazy that you watch him do that, and then you look at the numbers, and you're he looked good, but holy hell, these numbers, this guy was just dominating out there.
Mason Marchment, by the way, currently by Evolving Hockey's equation or model, ranks 15th in the NHL in goals above replacement.
Not bad.
No, not bad at all. He's sandwiched in between Elias Lindholm and Kirill Kaprizov.
Bananas.
Ahead of such names as Patrice Bergeron, Devin Taves, Sam Reinhart, and Timo Meyer. Marchment, I really hope the Panthers find a way to keep him this offseason.
I'm 3 times 3. Let's go. Everyone gets 3 times 3.
Yeah.
Look, I guess, Verhaeghe and Duclair, like, can Marchment really demand more than what they got? That's a good point, Jameson.
That's how the Panthers, they're going to 3 times 3 their way to like 4 straight Stanley Cups.
Mr. Giroux, our offer is 3 times 3. Accept or decline.
Let's give the same contract to every guy. Just fill in the name. Done.
Right.
It's a real team.
Give Giroux a no move clause just for good measure.
Yeah, why not?
Absolutely.
He's earned it.
Oh yeah.
The other like major thing, the one kind of, I don't even know if you consider this a pockmark, more so than something to look forward to come May 1st or whatever, May 2nd, is Aaron Ekblad. We expect him to be back for the first round unless you know otherwise, Jameson, and can break that on the show.
He's out of the full body cast. He was in the full body cast, immobile for a couple weeks.
Does he still have the neck brace?
Yes, he was suspended from the ceiling. They had to, of course. No, he's Don't worry about Ek. He gonna be fine.
Yeah, we have Patrick Starr sticking the hockey stick through the full body
cast.
cast.
Exactly.
Firmly grasp it.
That's a good.
Once it gets out of the full body cast, though, Lightning fans are going to be talking about cap circumvention. So maybe we should just keep him in there.
No, I completely different circumstances, but I'm glad the Lightning fans finally have something to fight back with.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
they've had it really hard.
Look, I'm going to personally plant my flag on this. You guys don't have to. I think the Lightning are going to lose in the first round, and I'm going to bet on it. Not to say like I guarantee first round and out for the Lightning, but I'm going to bet on whoever they play.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I would take Boston over them. I'm not sure I'd take Toronto over them.
Well, let me see the odds. If it's like Toronto minus 200 in the 7-game series, I'm not going to take it. But that would be me going back on what I'm saying. So maybe I'm just a coward, but I have a feeling that the odds are going to be favorable.
So I don't know. I'm not looking ahead to playoffs yet. I'm trying to savor it a little bit. Although, like you said, the East is pretty much set at this point, right? For the most part.
I mean, the Panthers have an 8-point lead on the division, I believe. Also an 8-point lead, 6-point lead in the conference with 12 games left. I mean, like that might seem like a small number. 6 points for 12 when there are 24 points left on the table for both Florida and Carolina to only have a 6-point lead for the conference. Does seem like a pretty small number, but when you really consider what the points percentages look like and what the schedules remaining look like, I mean, the Panthers would have to suffer a pretty significant collapse at this point to not win the conference. The President's Trophy is another story, but I'm not going to like give the Panthers the friggin' Eastern Conference champ, whatever the banner right now. But I mean, they're in a very good position to take on Washington in the first round.
Let's not do a banner though, because then all of a sudden people are going to do memes like they do to Nashville for the Western Conference regular season banner,
which is still hilarious. The memes, not the banner. Well, the banner is funny too.
Yeah. I hope we don't come to regret this, but I feel like everyone does want, in terms of like fandom, everyone is, hoping for Panthers Caps round 1, just because it seems like the easiest out. But who the heck knows? It's playoff hockey.
Right. There's no easy playoff series. I mean, like just look at Tampa and Columbus from a couple of years ago. I'm sure that Tampa was going to say, yes, we want Columbus round 1. That's got to be the easier matchup. And that's
why in hockey you can't
shut the door on.
You can't shoot for anyone. You just you take what you're given and play your game. Right. But if both teams are playing their game, I like the Panthers obviously with their 5-on-5 play a lot more than the Caps, but we'll save that for the playoff preview episode.
Right. I would much rather have Washington than any of Toronto, Boston, or Tampa.
Real quick, Alex. You mentioned the Tampa Bay Columbus series, but then there was that year that the Panthers beat the Bruins in game 82, the last day of the season. And then all of a sudden they have to play the Leafs instead of playing the Devils, which the Tampa Bay beat the Devils in 5. Boston had to go all the way to game 7 against the Leafs. And then Tampa Bay just, rinsed them in 5 games after a regular season where they were neck and neck the whole time. So playing that weaker opponent in round 1 can be a beneficial thing for sure.
Yeah, of course.
And I think the Panthers also would, once again, just we're looking far ahead. If they can get through that first round, knock on wood, I think they kind of need to do that to really kind of then flip that ultra switch into like, we did it, we won a round. Like now it's just, full speed ahead. Because that first mountain is so high. I mean, it's been there since '96. Like if you get over that first mountain, I feel like the peaks ahead are not going to look as daunting.
Right. Like Toronto's demon is Boston. Washington's demon was Pittsburgh. The Panthers' demon right now is just getting out of round one.
Yeah, it's not a team. It's just the round.
Right.
It's just advanced.
So you get beyond that. You get over that dragon. And I mean, all of a sudden, you feel unstoppable at that point.
Yeah. Let's not forget the Panthers are undefeated in rounds 2 and 3 of the playoffs in franchise history.
That's a very good point, TJ. That's an excellent point.
I also love it because you got to think, especially if they make a good deep run once again, knock on wood. I feel like there's gonna be so many franchise playoff stat records too broken just because no one's really been padding those stats for the last
out of necessity
20 years.
Almost. I mean,
yeah.
By default, we'll get a bunch of postseason records. I do just want to jump back to Ekblad just a little bit because I did a little deep dive on some statistics. Granted, it's only been 8 or so games without him. Mm-hmm. It feels like so much more for some reason, but I mean, he went out on March 20th. I mean, it was only a few weeks ago, but since Ekblad's injury, I just did a little bit of a ranking in the league of where the Panthers were before Ekblad's injury and after. And there are a couple of kind of alarming drops. Corsi against per 60 minutes, the Panthers were first in the league, as in they were the best at shot suppression before Ekblad went out. Now they're 6th. Granted, that's not like a kill. You're not going to get killed if you're 6th in the league, if you have the 6th best Corsi against per 60 in the league, especially when your Corsi 4 percentage only dropped from 1 to 2. But unblocked shot attempts, Panthers went from being the 3rd best team to the 10th. Goals against went from 13th to 19th. Expected goals against had the same fate. The one very interesting thing is high danger Corsi against per 60 minutes actually improved from
because that's such a small
23rd ranked
stat
to the 17th ranked.
It's interesting. I mean, that's also not a big enough jump, and like you say, with the sample size, but still interesting.
So there is like a little bit of concern there. Just about how, I mean, it's no secret. Reliant might not be the right word unless you want to use it for every team's best defenseman. And like any team losing their best defenseman would cause some sort of gap.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're basically saying team worse after losing number 1 defenseman, which is, of course, that's a given. And it's also not just that. You have to look at the state of the defense, too, after he goes out. Not only is he gone, but you're bringing in 2 new defensemen. You got Haig and Sherratt trying to just learn the system and get used to what the Panthers are doing, 60 plus games into the season. And because of that, you got 3 new defensive pairs this far into the season. Luckily, now we're back to Uyghur Forsling. So there's already some pre-made chemistry there. So that's been doing better. And the weird thing is like this time is really more about just finding who you want Sherratt to play with. Even there could be a problem where if you want to play with Ekblad, you're not going to get a look at that, of course, right now. But you're just trying to get the new guys comfy, really, because anything you're doing right now is going to get messed up the moment Ekblad comes back in, which they want to do. They want to mess it up. But it really is kind of just a placeholder, get guys comfy, learn the system time. And it's a weird time to do it, to have this kind of transition on defense at this point in the season, but it's what they got to do until Ekblad's back. But in terms of defensive concerns, yes, the defense is obviously always going to be worse without Ekblad, but luckily it looks like Ek is not in danger of missing the big games, it looks like.
Yeah. And to some extent, there is something nice about, like, some of the drops aren't quite as big as I would have thought, which is just nice.
I mean, this is not a shot at Ben Sherratt, but we replaced, Aaron Ekblad, a Norris caliber defenseman, with Ben Sherratt, who's a number 3, number 4, depending on your point of view of him. You're going to get a drop off like that. It's just natural. Like, it is what it is. Hopefully, when Ekblad gets back, thanks Tommy for that.
And Tommy agrees.
Yeah. Hopefully when Ekblad gets back, he's, well enough on, his legs are well enough under him that you can kind of get back to what you were playing prior to the deadline, aka prior to Ekblad getting hurt. But there was always going to be a drop off. Like you said, Jameson, you lose your number 1 defenseman, your defense gets worse. Shocking, like groundbreaking stuff.
That's a good point.
So basically, Jacob, your work is useless.
I love it.
No, the work isn't useless. It's good because it says like, hey, look, the Panthers do have things they got to clean up. The question becomes, well, are they cleaned up because Ekblad comes back, or has they actually regressed defensively? That's the question that's got to get answered. I personally think look, Uyghur's play has been a little bit inconsistent lately. Ben Sherrod's been good offensively, all right defensively, and I think that's being a bit generous. So I think Ekblad coming back will clean up some of those issues, but will it clean up all of them? I don't know. And the reality is, I don't know if it really matters that much, because if the offense can at least come somewhere close to the pace they have in the regular season, a slight drop off defensively won't matter much.
Well, I have a good question for you guys too. It's obviously the Panthers system isn't conducive to being a top ranked defense. It's not what they're about. Like with the kind of run and gun they play a little bit, obviously a high possession game, but they do give up those chances, to create that offense they create. So they can have success there. They can win the Stanley Cup, obviously, with that system. But in my mind, or should I say, my question for you guys is, if you have the top ranked offense in the league, what is the acceptable ranking for that defense in your guys' mind?
And being top 10 in most of the predictive metrics, that's good enough
to
for
have
me.
A defense in around 9, 10 among most metrics, while you're number one in pretty much all the offensive metrics. I feel like that's the sweet spot. I feel like that is this system executed perfectly.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been saying all week, or the last few weeks, is that everyone's like, oh, can the Panthers win 2-1? And it's like, who cares? They're scoring.
That's not their identity, winning 2-1. That's not what they do.
And also, I said teams have to suppress their own offensive capabilities so much in order to keep the Panthers to 2 that, like, are they scoring 3? I don't know. Doesn't seem likely.
That is also where
the middle of the pack
possession
defensively is
ratios
good
come
enough
into play. Like the Panthers were 1 in Corsi 4 percentage, are 2 without Ekblad, will go back to 1. Fenwick 4 percentage, they were 1 with Ekblad, 4 without him. Expected goals percentage actually did increase somehow. Their ranking, they were 3rd in the league before Ekblad's injury.
Well,
second.
Let's look at the fact
that
that
has
they
a lot
played,
more to do with the league around them than the Panthers themselves.
also the teams that they played.
Also the teams that they've played.
And also, like, I'll say there's like reasons for confidence, obviously, not that we need too many more to in first place, but reasons for confidence heading into the playoffs is, I mean, look at the season, how many outside of the COVID weird kind of 2 weeks that was, the Panthers really had a slump this year, like a legitimate slump.
There was 2, I would say. One
Are
of
you
them
counting
was
the COVID
like,
with the King when they lost
one of
the Kings. Yeah,
So
I'm not throwing that one out.
Yeah, you can, but it was a slump, to answer the question. And then there was that weird 3-game stretch where they lost to the Oilers, Blue Jackets, and the Predators.
Okay. But regardless, so look at that. The whole season, maybe 1 3-game slump there for the most part. The playoffs are all about consistency. It's about winning a 7-game series, and that's more cause for belief that this team is going to be the better team over the course of 7 games.
Right.
That's another, just thing that gets me fired up heading into the playoffs.
What I'll say is the consistency issue, I think, is not related to the defense. It's the goaltending that I'm worried about being consistent.
The funny thing is about goaltending in the playoffs is, no matter how good a team is, no matter what a team's strong suit is, you'll always say, like, man, the Panthers can go far, like, if Bob plays like Bob. But you said that about every single team. It's like, man, the Rangers can make a deep run if Shesterkin just, stands tall back there. So it really, goaltending in hockey, and especially the playoffs, is everything. It doesn't matter what else is going on. Every guy will say when they're describing a team, like, if Vasilevsky plays like Vezina Vasilevsky, the Lightning are right back in this thing going for number 3. And no one ever says, like, man, like, if Hedman just has a good series, the Lightning are going to win. Because it never is. Like, Hedman can't do that. He can't do it himself. Whereas every goaltender, you can say, Freddie Anderson, man, he could carry the Canes to a deep run here. And
that's
I'm always
the
fascinated
onus
by
on
that.
the goalie when he's the only player on the ice who plays 60 minutes a
Exactly.
night.
It really is just funny about hockey, is like,
yeah,
really is. If any goaltender can carry their team on a deep run.
And I feel like I also just need to point out one other very interesting statistic that also plays into some of these other stats. Since Ekblad's injury, something that has very little to do with Ekblad here, but the Panthers PDO rank has dropped from 9 to 24. Mostly, interestingly enough, predicated on our well, actually not interesting, predicated mostly on the save percentage. Our goaltending has been worse without Ekblad. And like that's almost like a chicken and the egg situation.
But how much of that is weighed when you weigh in like two really bad games? Like,
right.
Only,
and that's also
it
where the
tanks
fact
it a
that it's
bit.
only been 8 or 9 games without Ekblad also factors in. But that PDO drop, the fact that the Panthers have had that PDO drop, and like even being 24th in PDO since Ekblad's injury, I just want to take a look and remind myself of what the Panthers' record is since the Ekblad injury, because it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-1.
What
while
happened
being
to
the
one?
24th ranked
on?
PDO
Jeez.
team in the league.
So,
like
and that's what this whole season's become, especially at this point of the season. We are, everything we talk about is picking nits at this point, but we got to pick them just because there really isn't enough to really say like, I'm super concerned about this. I'm a little bit concerned about everything. It's hockey. It's like, if this doesn't happen or that doesn't happen, or if this doesn't get better, if that, cools off, that's kind of where we're at now with the Panthers. They're doing so well. You just hope they keep doing it. And that's really all you say.
Yeah, unfortunately, hockey discourse is so banal at this point. Like in every market, you're going to have those conversations. Like, I bet you that like 15 of the 16 playoff markets are like, blank team can go far, but what about the goaltending? And like maybe there's a fourth line, third pairing defenseman sort of thing. But it's just, we hear it every single year. It's always the same.
What is the last legitimate argument? Because I feel like for 90% of the playoffs is locked up for the most part. I feel like pretty much all the awards are locked up except MVP. Like I think I got the Norris locked up. I think Vezina's locked up. MVP is the only one that I think where there's still a decent argument right now.
I would argue that there shouldn't be that decent of an argument. I think the heart really should just go to Igor. But there is a debate to be had, but
with Igor's
it
recent bad stretch, though, maybe there is more of a debate. But
he kind of left the door open there.
I don't know if this is a Hart Trophy podcast, so
not yet.
Not yet.
So, Jameson, before we let you go, I have one very important question to ask. There's been a little bit of discourse on Panthers Twitter today because the confidence of the fans is also at a near all-time high, and the discourse that has resulted in that is when Gary Bettman passes the Stanley Cup to Alexander Barkov. Who does Alexander Barkov give the cup to next?
I think he just takes it himself and leaves because he knows he did it all himself.
I'm surprised that Ovi didn't do that.
The ultimate heel turn. He just leaves. No, I don't know. I think it's got to be Hubie. I mean, like, obviously, you look at guys that are going to be. It pains me to talk about this. I don't want to get my hopes up, but like,
I know.
You think about the guys around. You think about Giroux. You think about Jumbo. You think about all the guys that every fan wants that next guy to be. But this is Barkey and Hubie's team. I mean, Ek, of course, is there too. But these guys have, I gotta say Ek too. I think you'd have to go like Barkey, Hubie, Ek. I think those three are the three pillars. Really? The guys that have been here the longest, the guys that have really seen this thing rise from the ashes, that have really no one's put in more blood, sweat, and tears throughout a career than Jumbo. But in terms of blood, sweat, and tears here, it's that. But the thing is, this team is so friggin' selfless and loves each other so much that I think it's going to be like a friggin' battle. No one's going to want to like hold it next because everyone's going to be like, oh, no, you go. Oh, no, you go. It's you, man. It's you. Like, there's going to be such an awkward, I feel like, pause because everyone's going to want the other guy to get it.
I think, like, out of respect, I feel like it's got to be Jumbo. Like, you go Barkov to Jumbo, then to Huberdeau and Ekblad, and then Giroux, and then
I think they'd have to yell. I think they'd have to yell at Jumbo to do it, but enough guys would be yelling it for Jumbo to be the next guy that I think he'd have to do it.
There's pretty much no debate. It's either Huberdeau or Thornton.
But one thing I'll say is, like, obviously we're so hyped for this playoff run and what could be, but it's hockey. Anything can happen. That's the scariest part and the most exciting part. But regardless of what happens this season, I'm not giving up on this season yet. Obviously, I think we should be the favorites to win the cup this year. I'm all in, but take a step back and also enjoy the fact that this is not a flash in the pan. Look at the contracts, look at who's here, look at the big guy who's in charge, Bill Zito. Like, this is a team whose window is at least open for the next, with this group, 3-4 years.
Bill.
Like, thanks, Bill. Like, this is a team that's going to be one of the best teams in hockey for X amount of years. Like, it's built for that. This just happens to be a very, very, very good year with a very good chance.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to not only this year's playoffs, but years to come. Having said that, though, everybody's looking forward to this year's playoffs, especially.
But
Considering
my
we
question
got
is
Claude
like
Giroux.
when because I like the Sabres. I like what the Sabres are doing right now. I like what the Red Wings are doing in their rebuild. Like when are these new I like the Senators have a lot of young pieces I like. Like who is going to get out of the way in 2, 3, 4 years for those teams to come up?
Well,
And you
I
can't- no,
think
you can't say
Bergeron
Boston.
might,
My hot take is Boston.
We've been saying Boston for
but I think he might
5 years.
retire. Like he's sent a lot of like smoke signals that this is going to be his last year.
maybe depends what they do, I guess, in the playoffs.
Yeah.
You're not going to have Bergeron and Marchand there forever.
True.
I
We'll
think
see.
it's Boston.
We'll see. But I've made the argument that Boston is a really scary team this year.
And eventually
Oh, yeah.
Crosby's going to retire, and the Penguins should maybe sink in the Metro.
I mean, they're about to get into some serious cap hell. I think they're
sinking a little bit.
I think the Penguins are about to get into their not necessarily post Ken Holland, but like the lean years of the Ken Holland era.
But
for
yeah,
the
Stevie
Penguins
Y and
coming.
Detroit are only going to miss the playoffs so many years. And Stevie,
Right.
He's
Yeah,
building
yeah.
something good there.
Yeah.
Right.
And I like the trade they made for Vrana and getting all those picks as well. But I was going to wrap us up by saying everybody's looking forward to the playoffs. We all just want to fast forward to the playoffs, and we're going to have a lot of great content in the playoffs. I'm sure we're going to get you back, Jameson. Are you game to come back?
Of course. In between rounds, round by round breakdown. Let's see.
Let's do it.
Great. So now we've got you on record.
Have you
saying
guys
that
ever done a
will come
multi-guest?
back on-
You get 2 guests on at once.
We did for
Multi-guest it.
the
Did
Did you
Barkov
not
show.
listen to our drunk podcast?
I missed that one. Who was on
He
that
doesn't
one?
have to.
Oh, George and David.
Oh,
That was a really fun one.
They agreed to fight
We
each
got,
other.
I got Dave. I got David Wilson on from the Herald on our pod today. You should get him on. David
We
Wilson.
should. We should. I like
Give him
David.
give him a shout.
I'm going to DM him after we're done.
Hashtag DM David.
We got some
it
other
trending.
guests coming up though that should be very interesting as well. Just stay tuned for that. Also check our Twitter feed. We're giving away a pair of tickets to the game against the Jets on the 15th. Just checking real quick what date that
Sweet
is.
foreshadowing, TJ.
And we'll see you there.